In 2013, Alton Towers Resort in Staffordshire, England opened their biggest and most exciting roller coaster to date, breaking the world record for the most inversions on a roller coaster. The roller coaster has had a very difficult history, and today we're going to take a look back into the history of the SMILER, the ride that shaped Alton Towers in the modern day. Firstly, let's take a look back to 1984, a year that saw the opening of Alton Towers' biggest investment since its opening in 1980. The Black Hole was an indoor roller coaster manufactured by Schwarzkopf and became a family favourite in the X-Sector area of the park, which was established in 1998 when Oblivion opened its doors. By 2001, the X-Sector area of the park was in full swing, with 2 major roller coasters and 2 supporting flat rides, those being Enterprise and Submission. The land had an eerie sci-fi theme, creating the atmosphere of a futuristic government facility, and the Black Hole ride slotted into this theme perfectly. In 2005, Alton Towers made the decision to dismantle and sell the Black Hole roller coaster. However, the tent it was located within remained standing for several years afterwards, as Towers had no plans at the time to redevelop the site. In 2011, the tent was used for a scare maze attraction for the park's Halloween event, Scarefest, the first time it had been used in 6 years. However, it would be 2 months later that Towers would unveil their plans to redevelop the Black Hole site, and this initially came in the form of a submission to the local council. These plans were approved the following March despite local opposition, and it was revealed that German roller coaster manufacturer Gerstlauer will be constructing the ride. It was provided with the codename Secret Weapon 7, a codename used for all of Alton Towers' record-breaking rides, such as Oblivion, which was codenamed as Secret Weapon 4, Air, which was codenamed as Secret Weapon 5, and 13, which was codenamed as Secret Weapon 6. The fact that Towers' new coaster was given the Secret Weapon codename meant that something record-breaking and exciting was on the way, and the initial teaser campaigns began the hype for the new development. The former Black Hole tent was demolished in April of 2012, which also saw the beginning of the marketing for the ride. A website was launched for Secret Weapon 7, giving people the option to sign up for future news on the ride. This was expanded in September, when a smiling face was spotted in many locations across the park. Construction of the coaster began at the end of 2012, with track first arriving on park in October. For Scarefest 2012, the park introduced a new scare maze named The Sanctuary, which was the public's first look at the storyline for the new ride. The maze followed the fictional Ministry of Joy and their new project, which involved advocates stepping forward to carry out the marmalization process at the hands of the founding member, Dr. Kelman. Their new project would soon be unveiled as the new coaster. However, the scare maze gave a strong backstory for what to expect the following year. Over the closed season, Towers ramped up their marketing strategies, and the first look at the official SMILER logo was in January of 2013. This appeared in various forms across the country, such as on ticket barriers in train stations, being projected onto London buildings, and even spray painted onto sheep in several rural areas. The name of the ride was revealed by Metro newspaper on the 21st of January 2013 as the SMILER. However, the opening date for the ride, which was originally the 16th of March, had been pushed back to the 23rd of May due to unforeseen delays. Marketing continued in February, with a free game being released, allowing players to experience the SMILER's layout and earn points based on how well the ride was run. While this and initial plans hinted that the ride would feature the most inversions on any ride in the world, it wasn't until April that John Wardley, the designer of the roller coaster, provided the first official confirmation that the SMILER would feature 14 inversions, more than any other roller coaster anywhere on the planet. He also revealed that there will be more to the ride than just the coaster itself, and would feature mind-bending elements to provide a thrilling and immersive experience. The ride then featured on news programmes and breakfast cereals ahead of its opening in May, which was delayed a further week due to more teething issues, which was evident from the coaster's preview event, on which a train of riders was left stranded on the first lift hill for over half an hour. The SMILER officially opened to the public on the 31st of May 2013 after a series of setbacks. The ride experience was like no other in the UK, featuring 14 inversions, 2 lift hills, an indoor section, projection mapping, screens, sound and special effects. Riders board the train of 4 rows, with each row featuring 4 seats. An initial pre-drop and indoor inversion lead riders into the first lift hill, where they drop into the first half of the ride, travelling through several inversions. The second half features a vertical lift, as well as several more inversions, before heading into the brake run and back into the station. The ride was intense as well as scary, with its dark storyline fitting in well to the X Sector's already off-putting ambience. From off-ride, the coaster also looked intimidating, dominated by a large metal structure called the Marmalizer. This was the machine designed by Dr. Kelman in the backstory of the ride, created to carry out the marmalization process to their advocates. While the opening of the SMILER was a historic one, it didn't take long for things to take a dark turn. The SMILER saw 6 individual incidents in its opening year, with one injuring 4 people. In June of 2013, the ride stalled during testing on 2 separate occasions, one of which was caused by a fault from the ride system. It was the 21st of July, however, when the ride encountered its first notable issue. A metal component was seen to fall from the ride's track, nearly striking guests in the queue. The loss of this component caused an alleged gap in the track, causing the ride to shut down immediately. 48 people were evacuated from the ride, and it was closed for 4 days before reopening on the 25th once the component had been returned to the track. Just 5 days later, however, the ride was closed again after cracks were seen at the base of one of the ride supports, causing it to be unavailable for another few days. The ride ran smoothly until November, where the ride experienced another incident. 4 people were injured after being struck by a guide wheel that detached from the ride car whilst completing the first lift hill. It was another sign that the SMILER was perhaps not as safe as it could have been. However, the following season of 2014 saw no incidents whatsoever. The ride itself was safe. However, it was human error that would lead to the most major incident in Alton Towers history in the following year of 2015. The 2nd of June 2015 was a windy day in Staffordshire, with speeds reaching up to 46 miles per hour. It is a common occurrence that parks will have to close certain rides if wind speeds are too high, as it can affect their operations. Gerstlauer, the manufacturer of the ride, advised that if wind speeds reach over 34 miles per hour, the ride should be closed. However, this was ignored as the park was busy due to it being the beginning of summer. The operations team on the SMILER wanted to add a 5th train to the circuit in order to reduce queue times. However, this was delayed due to a fault reported by the ride system. The ride temporarily ceased operation while a 5th train was added to the track, and a test car was sent out after this. The first test car got stuck at the bottom of the second lift hill, which triggered an alert to the ride's control room. The SMILER features several block sections which are sensors built into the track and used to track the progress of each car, allowing for only one car to be in each section of the layout at one time to avoid collision. The first test car had not reached its block section at the top of the second lift hill, meaning the control room could not send out a second test car, resulting with maintenance having to manually push the first test car forwards onto the chain, which led to the completion of the circuit. Before the control room resumed normal operation, they released the second empty test car. The train valleyed in one of the inversions due to the high wind speeds decreasing its momentum. However, the first train full of passengers had already been dispatched from the station when it failed to complete the first lift hill. Due to the second test car not having passed over the necessary block section at the top of the second lift hill, the ride system stopped the first passenger train at the top of the first lift hill, as it would have been dangerous to let it down the drop. The passenger train was held at the top of the first lift hill for 10 minutes, while the empty test train sat valleyed in the first half of the layout. However, this was completely missed by the maintenance team, who put the ride into evacuation mode. This causes the ride system to detect which train is closest to completing the layout and send it back to the station, but due to the empty test car not being on a censored segment of track, the ride system suspected that the passenger train at the top of the first lift hill is the only train on the track. The passenger train is then released from the top of the first lift hill, where it soon collides with the empty test train. 2 of the maintenance team hear the crash, however it took 11 minutes for the emergency services to be called. The emergency response to the crash was a struggle, as the car was stuck 7 meters above the ground on a strong bank, making the injured passengers difficult to reach. Out of 16, 11 of the riders required medical attention, 5 of which were severely injured and 2 required leg amputations. It was deemed a miracle that the passengers on the front row survived the accident. and thankfully, the survivors continued to live as normal life as possible, dealing with the impacts of the incident. The ride and park were immediately closed for investigation, and it was found in a later inquiry that the 2 engineers who put the ride into evacuation mode weren't taught the procedures when it came to resetting the ride's block sections, and the Alton Towers regulations allowed uneducated and inexperienced engineers to work with ride breakdowns, even if they had never dealt with one before. During the investigation, Merlin Entertainments closed several of their roller coasters across the UK in order to review safety regulations, and the company were fined £5 million in September of 2016. Excluding 2020 due to COVID, 2016 saw the lowest annual visitor number since the records began in 1984 due to the crash, dropping to 1.71 million. The SMILER still operates at Alton Towers to this day, regardless of protests to close the ride after the crash in 2015. The investigation into the ride showed that it did exactly what it was manufactured to do. The fault was in the hands of the operations and engineering team, as well as Merlin's safety regulations at the time. Since then, Merlin has reviewed its regulations and its parks are more safe than they have ever been, providing no reason whatsoever to close the SMILER for good. While a stigma still exists around the ride to this day, there has never been a safer and more secure time to enjoy a ride on the world's first 14 inverting roller coaster. While it's had a troubled past, it's undeniable that the SMILER is still one of the main reasons to visit Alton Towers, even 12 years after its opening. Its thrilling nature along with its compact, daring layout makes for a unique ride experience. I can see the SMILER operating for the foreseeable future, with perhaps a refurbishment on the cards somewhere in the next few years, as it could definitely benefit from a clean-up and a repaint in certain areas. Nonetheless, it still remains a fan favourite to this day, leaving its troubled past behind. What are your thoughts on the SMILER? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this time, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.